All right. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to start out this. Some people have been, uh, good Lord. All right. So people have been asking me why I'm not doing OBS anymore right now. Hey, Danish, how's it going? I'm holding off on doing OBS until a part that I need for my wireless headset gets here. And then I'm going to go ahead and start doing OBS because then I can invite people in and all that sort of stuff. And I can do quite a bit more. So that's the reason why I'm not doing OBS right now. I haven't given up on OBS. I'm going to be doing that. I'm just waiting for that one part to come in and then we're good to go. Should also give better sound quality as well for when I'm talking and better regulation, all that. But just wanted to go ahead, address that right off the bat, get that out of the way right now. So, power of choice. A lot of people think that their choices really don't have too much of an effect. And to that, I say bullshit. Your choices affect you. They affect those around you. They affect the path that your life takes. It's something that is exceedingly powerful. And it's one of the few things that you actually have a say in. There's a lot of ways that life just kind of, sometimes you just have to go with the flow of it. But as far as choice is concerned, that's when you actually can make a difference in your life. So that's one thing. But another awesome part about sitting there and making choices is when you make that choice and things go well, you get to sit there and you get to pat yourself on the back a little bit and that sort of thing, which is always nice. But also conversely, if you make the wrong choice, now you got to own up to it. And that kind of sucks at times. Especially when there's some very negative consequences associated with making the wrong choice. For example, I'm going to try to stay topical. Let's go ahead and talk about Kaepernick. Kaepernick is now without a job. He made the wrong choice. He backed the wrong pony. Then the others, seeing this, being able to make an educated decision, seeing this, decided that they were going to go ahead and start doing this too. And so now what's the effect of their choices? Well, the NFL's viewership is down by 25 points. The stadiums are not exactly getting full to capacity like they normally are. So their ticket sales are bombing. Their viewership on TV is starting to go down. And this is because of the choice of the players. But I want to go ahead and say this. Whenever you make a choice, you also force someone else to make choices. With almost every choice that you make, at least in society. Like if you're out in the woods and you're camping on your own, and you make some little piddly choice like what to eat for breakfast, that's not really going to affect anyone else that's not out camping with you. But if you're in a job and you make a choice, well, that's going to force other people around you to make choices, the people that you're working with, your bosses, all that, and even customers. It's going to make them make a choice. So making choices is a very powerful thing. It's how we as individuals direct our life. Whinging and pissing and whining and moaning does not direct your life. It's the choices that you make in it. And the thing is choosing to piss and whine and whinge and moan is, of course, a choice. And you then force other people into a choice at that point. Are they going to choose to listen to you? Are they going to choose to try to console you? Are they going to choose to capitulate to you? Or are they going to choose to tell you to sit down, shut the fuck up, rub some dirt in it, and walk it off? That is the power of choice. Your choices do not just affect you. Your choices affect those around you. It affects the world around you. It affects people's perception of you. And that's with every choice that you make in your life. And the thing is we make choices so many times in one day. Every movement that you make, every word that you speak, all of those are choices. You choose to do things. I mean, unless, you've got, epilepsy or something like that and you go into a seizure, then you're not choosing to move there. That's a completely different thing. What I'm talking about is conscious decisions that you are making and unconscious decisions. Because the thing is the choices that you've made in the past will actually affect your subconscious choices that you make now. When we were kids, we were constantly making choices. We were constantly paying overly detailed attention to everything around us. Honestly, kids are fucking amazing when it comes to that. Kids notice a lot more than adults. They're perceiving everything around them and they're making their choices based off of that. So that's kind of cool. And as we get older, we kind of lose that because as we gain experience, we decide to automate some of our choices. And those are also called habits. It's us making the same choice in similar situations. For example, I'll use smoking. Smoking is a habit. I'm, yes, choosing to smoke cigarettes, but I'm choosing to smoke each cigarette based off of my previous decision when I initially started smoking. But every cigarette that I smoke, every cigarette that I roll and light up is a choice. And that's just one way that choices have lasting effects. Sometimes it'll only affect that one moment, but for the most part, your choices affect you throughout your entire life. I'm sure we all have those memories in the past where they'll randomly pop up in your head and you're all like, oh God, I wish I had chosen to do this a little bit differently, or I wish I had chosen not to say that. And like me, I have those random memories pop up in my life. Like I'll just be sitting there if my brain isn't fully engaged with something, I'll have a random memory pop up from in the past, some embarrassing thing that I did as a kid or something embarrassing that I said or something amazingly stupid that I said or some big mistake that I made. But the thing is those decisions back then helped shape me into who I am today, mentally and physically. So the thing is when you make a choice, try to be sure that you're making the best one. Try to make your choices based off of information, not off of how you feel. Because the thing is feelings change constantly. Your feelings can change from one moment to the next. You can go from happy to sad to pissed off, back to happy and all that, just in a continuous cycle. And never feel the same from one minute to the next. But the thing is if you're making your decisions based off of that, It's like trying to build a house on shifting sands. It's not a good idea. You're not going to be able to have a good basis for any of your choices. However, if you base your choices off of accumulated knowledge that you have from living your life, from past experiences, from information that you've gained from listening to others' experiences, take all that into account, process it, and then make your choice, then that's the way that you make those decisions that have a good foundation. Very rarely will those decisions come back to actually haunt you. Those aren't going to be the decisions that you're going to really feel guilty about. The ones that you'll feel guilty about are, let's go ahead, let's use an example. I mean, kind of pertinent to MGTOW for the guys who have been in relationships. What if you're with a significant other? They piss you off. And then you make the decision to go ahead and say something that you know is fucking hurtful to them, that isn't necessarily true, but you know is playing on their insecurities. And you nuke them from orbit. Well, later on, you might actually feel bad about that. Why? Because you made it based off of the emotion that you were feeling at that point. Not off of actual information, not off of past experience, but based off of what you were feeling at that time. And as soon as your feelings change, all of a sudden you start feeling guilty about it. Or you start saying, oh, I wish I had handled that a little bit better. We as guys should definitely understand that, because women do that to guys all the time. Comedians have talked about it since time immemorial. But the reason why they've consistently talked about that, the reason why that is a continuous subject of discussion there, the reason why they choose to keep bringing that up is because it is something that is continuously happening all throughout history. And it's just us repeating those same choices over and over and over again. And then when someone doesn't make those same choices, all of a sudden they're looked sideways at by other people. Because a lot of people have just thought for such a long time that choice is an illusion, that choice doesn't really affect anything, that your life is predetermined. Well, it isn't. The only person that determines how your life goes is you. And that even comes down to with the slaves. Look at any level of slavery throughout history. Doesn't matter what time period you're looking at. Those slaves actually did have a choice. They had a choice to submit or to fight. But the thing is a lot of the time they didn't realize that they had the choice. They had it hammered into their skulls that they didn't have that choice. Hey, love, how's it going? Really, love? Oh, God. Once I'm done with this little rant of mine, I'll come back to that. And Danish, that right there is actually a form of choice. Danish says, I dumped my regular sex partner. She wanted more of a relationship than I was willing to offer. You assessed your situation. You based it off of your wants and desires, and also off of your past experiences, off of what you've heard from other people, all of that, what you've observed around you, and you made your choice. That is how you make your choices. Now, I'm not saying that you can ever fully control things. Like sometimes you'll feel an emotion so strongly that you'll just make a snap decision on that. And sometimes you have only milliseconds to make a decision. And so, yeah, okay, that's kind of a hard thing. But if you have the time to step back, take a couple of seconds or even a couple of minutes to make a decision, it's time well invested. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. If you're going to be going ahead and making a choice, take some time to think about it if you have the time to think about it. Like if you're sitting there and you're in an emergency situation and you have to make a snap decision, well, hopefully you have some pretty good processing power as far as being able to weigh all the pros and cons and your past experiences and things that you've observed around you and all that sort of thing. Hopefully you can move through that net pretty fucking fast. But the thing is, the more you stop to take time to do that, the more efficient you're going to get and the less time you're going to need to make those decisions. Because it'll get to the point where you're all like, all right, I've made these decisions in the past based off of this information. Is there any new information that I need to apply? No? Okay, I'm making this choice. So then your choices become more consistent, which gives you a better knowledge of yourself and a better prediction of what you're going to do in any given situation that can arise. And it also makes it so you're faster at making those snap decisions and you'll make more accurate and better decisions. Just like with anything else, making choices is something that takes practice. The more you practice at it, the more masterful you get. Again, not a hard concept, but one that most people don't even know exists. And I'm sure I am not the only one who has spoken about this. But I've just noticed a lot of people having that kind of nihilistic attitude towards choices. And I'm like, no, you can make your choices. You can change the path of your own life. And love, I'm with you on that. I'm one of those people. I have to work on controlling my emotions more. I mean, I've made great leaps and bounds. Like the me today is nothing like the me from 10 years ago. The me from 10 years ago, I was making almost all my decisions based off of emotion. And my life was going to hell in a handbasket. And that handbasket had already been pre-treated to make sure that that thing combusted on the way down. Just so I'd burn for that extra few seconds in eternity. I mean, it was bad. But now I've gotten to the point where I don't tend to make a lot of decisions based off of that knee-jerk reaction anymore. I tend to not. I'm not saying that it never happens. And we're all going to have those situations where sometimes, you know, you just get so fucking pissed off that you're going to make a bad decision or make a decision that you might regret later. That's going to happen. But the key thing there is if you make those decisions, learn from them. Learn from your mistakes. Because if you learn from your mistakes, then you are much less likely to repeat them in the future. Once you recognize those situations, when you start getting into them, it also becomes easier to control your emotion. Just, you'll still feel the emotion, but you'll know why, and that'll actually somewhat keep you calmer. So yes, as you get better at making choices, you get better at self-assessment. The better you get at self-assessment, the more control you have over yourself. There are some things where, yeah, you know what, the lower processes of your brain are going to have a greater say than your higher processes. But you can, over time, use those higher processes to override those lower ones. You can. It's hard because at that point, you know, You're kind of fighting something against something that's ingrained into you. Like your fight or flight instinct. Perfect example. Your fight or flight instinct is a very base process of what makes you you. That's an automated system. But the thing is if you're able to use those higher processes to logic your way through it, then you can lessen the effects of that fight or flight instinct and you won't panic. Soldiers do that all the time. Most of us, if we heard an explosion near us, what's going to be our natural reaction? Get the fuck away from it. But a soldier will learn to keep their ass planted firmly in their spot and not go running out into enemy gunfire. That is a perfect example of your higher processes overriding your lower processes. So it is very possible. And it doesn't just serve people in the military. Hey, voice, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. But the thing is as you go ahead and utilize that in your day-to-day life, you're going to start making better decisions. You're going to start making decisions that you're not going to be regretting later on. And even if you make a wrong decision, you can sit there and look at it and go, well, with the information that I had available to me at that point, that was probably the most logical decision I made. Yes, it might have been wrong. Yes, I can somewhat regret that I made the wrong decision. But at least at that point, you can take some solace in knowing, hey, this is the information that I had available to me. I had gone out, I had looked for information, I assessed it, and I made as educated of a decision as I could. But again, like I said, anytime you make a wrong decision, learn from it. That's all you can do. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all human. But when you make your choices, do everything in your power to make sure that the choices you make are based off of reality. Because the thing is your feelings will feel real to you. Like you can feel like something is the most important thing going on the planet. And I'll go ahead and I'll take this to an extreme example. Let's say the death of a loved one. To you, it feels like the world has ground to a halt. But to anyone else that's not attached to you, the world is rotating and going on just like normal. The reality of the situation is the vast majority of the world probably does not even realize what's going on there. So is it fair of you, someone who's in pain at that point, in emotional pain, to take it out on other people? No, it isn't. That's the reason why after you're done with that grieving process and you see the pain that you caused to other people because of you reacting that way, it's the reason why you feel that ping of guilt. It's the reason why you sit there and go, oh, I really need to apologize for that. Fair enough. You made a decision. You realize that you did something wrong. You're trying to fix it, but now you need to learn from it. So when it happens again, which it will happen again, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people have more than one loved one in their life, someone that they care for. And I'm not talking about just a family member. It can be a best friend. It can be a coworker that you're really close with. You'll feel that feeling of loss again at some point in your life until the end of your life. And you feel that feeling of loss the strongest when your life is ending. But at that point, your problems are about to be over. But I'm talking about when you're the survivor of something. Like when you're sitting there and someone else dies And you're the one that has to sit there and take those broken pieces and pick them up and try to reassemble them. That's when your choices hold the most power. Because the thing is if you're making your choices based off of emotion, you're going to cause more harm than good. So that's how you're able to go ahead and use the power of your choices, not only to more positively affect your life and to give your life more stability in and of your own accord, which I can't think of anything more empowering. Actually taking control of your life, which also means taking responsibility for the choices you've made in the past, for the choices that you're going to make in the future, and the choices that you're making now. So yes, there is some give and take there. Yes, you're taking control of your life, but also at the same time, you're giving up the ability to blame others. Your choices are your choices to make. If you choose to go out, drink, and drive, then you are fully responsible for the consequences of that. If you kill someone else, you are solely responsible at that point. If you get arrested, you are solely responsible for that point. It's not the cop's fault. The cop's doing his fucking job. His job is to keep other people safe when you make piss poor decisions. And there are going to be situations where someone else's choices are going to negatively affect you, and you had no say in the matter. But the thing is you have a say in how it affects you. You can choose to sit there and just accept it, bend over and take it quietly, or you can fight it. That is your choice. And I don't care if you're MGTOW or anything else. It doesn't matter. Man, woman, child, doesn't matter. Everyone has at least that choice. You either choose to fight or you choose to submit in that situation. And you're the only one who can decide which choice is the right choice for you. Because you're the one in control of your life. Period. End of story. You can choose to let life grind you down, to tire you out. You can choose to give up. Or you can choose to persevere. You can choose to keep getting up over and over and over again every time you get knocked on your ass. You can choose to continue moving forward. You can choose to not let others stop you from pursuing your goals. You are the one in control of that. Yes, others can make choices that will affect you, and that will in some ways affect your choices, because their choices have just as much power as you. But the way that you can add more power to your choices is by adding in resolve. That's where the true power of choice comes from. Because you can sit there and make the right choice for the right reasons, but if you don't have the resolve, then you can easily let someone override your choice when they're making the wrong decision for the right or wrong reasons. All it takes for them is having more resolve than you. Those who tend to have the most resolve tend to be the ones to get the best results. Those are the ones whose choices affect more people, who affect more of the world around them. And it doesn't have to be some majorly noticeable thing. It doesn't mean like politicians or anything like that. I'm talking about your average everyday person. Like there are people that will go down to a homeless shelter and volunteer their time. There's a lot of people that tell them they're wasting their time, they're being part of the problem, blah, 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 blah. But they have the resolve to tell those people to go fuck themselves, that they want to help these other people. For the most part, that sort of shit goes unnoticed. But it makes the biggest difference imaginable. Hey, Rob, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. But the thing is you don't have to make the same level of difference as a nuclear bomb going off. Because the thing is if you're with other people that are making similar choices, that are all trying to make those positive changes, then eventually you're going to get those results. Small changes now can lead to huge differences later on, as long as there is resolve between those choices that you and others are making. And that is one thing that a lot of people are missing nowadays, is resolve. You see a lot of people talking a big game, saying, oh, I would do this, I would do that. But put into that situation, they turn around and run with their fucking tail between their legs as soon as any level of pressure is applied to them. They don't have the resolve. A lot of people ask, well, what do you have that's worth living for? I say that's a bullshit question. I ask people, what do you have in your life that's worth dying for? That always brings people to a grinding halt. Because it's easy to ask someone what they want to live for. Because living is something that everyone wants to do for the most part. At least on some basic level. The more animalistic part of us wants to live. But the concept of having something worth dying for is something that comes from our higher processes. What do you value enough? What do you believe in enough to die for? Ask yourself that question. It'll tell you a lot about yourself when you give yourself that answer. You might be surprised by the answer. You might be surprised at how minute some of those things actually seem. But then when you ask yourself why, it usually comes down to the things that comprise you, the things that make you you, that make you an individual. The things that you have made choices about throughout your entire life, leading yourself up to where you are today. Let's see. Rob's saying, would you be willing to give me advice on how to deal with a crazy anti-white teacher? He harasses me and the other white students who are Republican. He also compares Trump to Hitler. Well, that's pretty much par for the course nowadays, isn't it? And the end of society, the end of the world and society as we know it. All right, sounds like your teacher's a real alarmist, for one. And the thing is, it's really hard to get through to people like that. In fact, that person's probably so steeped in it that they're kind of beyond saving. I'm not one of those people that will sit there and say, oh, everyone can be saved, because they can't. Some people just choose to not look at the world realistically, and they look at it through their ideological lens. But as far as how to deal with said teacher, are you in college? Are you in high school? What's up? What level of education are you in right now? Yeah, I agree with you. For them, it is emotion over facts. Feels before reals. But yeah, are you in college or are you in high school? High school freshman. There's not really much that you can do there other than requesting to be transferred to another class, but that might change around your entire schedule, so on and so forth. Another thing that you can do, if it's legal where you're at, you're going to have to go ahead and look into your local laws and that sort of thing. You can actually go ahead and take in, a camera or some recording device. And of course, keep it hidden, that sort of thing, because, they'll take it away because you're in high school. But go ahead, take that stuff in and get evidence of them actually harassing white students and Republicans and that sort of thing. Because at that point, that is discrimination based off of skin color and off of political affiliation. And if you can go ahead and get evidence of that, you can go ahead, take a copy of it. You notice I'm saying a copy of it, forward to the principal to have it addressed. If you're one of those people that absolutely has to do something, that you can't just bite the bullet, go through it, and just realize the motherfucking. Okay, well at that point you would just need to go through, do that, and then just take it to just anonymously send it to a local news station that will report on conservatives being discriminated against. That's if you really need to do that. Another thing is you have to sit there and make your choices in life. So if you choose to take action against it right now, the problem is that might actually close some doors to you later on, because that teacher might sit there and purposely lower your grades, give you low test scores, go out of their way to screw with you. I've had teachers like that in the past. I live out in California, so I feel your pain. But the thing is oh, and hey, Holy Blade, how's it going? But sometimes at that moment, there isn't anything that you can do. But you can make the right choices. One choice is to go ahead and keep in mind what this type of person is. So go ahead and, play the game, that sort of thing, obviously. But keep it in mind, make sure to do your own research, keep educating yourself, keep your knowledge base growing. But then later on, once you're out of the situation where that teacher no longer has a way of controlling you, which usually takes until you're completely out of high school, sad to say, then you can go back and say, hey, here was my experience at this school. Go ahead and tell people, hey, this is being allowed at this school. Do not send your kids here. This is how it affected me. That is the way that you go ahead and do that. You make those decisions, because at that point, you're being honest, you're able to affect a certain level of change, but also at the same time, you're not nuking your own existence. That's my suggestion. Like with me, I was one of those kids that just couldn't stay silent. So anytime a teacher said something that was complete and total bullshit, I stood up and I called them out on it. And I sourced how they were wrong and that sort of thing, because it was in a school situation, so you had to have your sources and all that. Or I would sit there and call out logical fallacies that they had brought up. So that's how I dealt with it. But that decision is not always the best for people, because I was able to keep my grades high. So, yeah. As far as advice is concerned, I don't live where you're at, so I can't really give you the best advice on that, to be perfectly honest. But be familiar with the laws, what you can and can't do, all that sort of thing. If you're in a highly democratic area, well, then you're going to have some issues. All I can say is, once you're old enough, if you have the capability to do so, get the fuck out of there. Luckily, even though I live in California, I live in a very Republican area. I live in a very conservative area. So I'm not even the most liked here, because the thing is, I'm more of a centrist. I'm just slightly right-leaning. But I would probably say, as soon as you can get out of that situation, I'd probably get out of it. Another option that's there is you can go ahead and ask to go to a secondary school, which tends to be a little bit better than the public school system. Oh yeah, I've actually seen that, Rob. I've seen that a lot of people are leaving Jersey. I've seen that. So, but secondary schools are actually a really good thing. Like with my daughter, if she ever asks to do secondary schooling, I will automatically say yes. Because I honestly believe in secondary schooling, because you can still go ahead, take part in local schools, football teams, and choir, whatever extracurricular activities there are. But your actual learning is more of a one-on-one experience. It actually gets parents involved in their kids' lives. And it also allows the parents to teach their morals to their children directly, instead of the kids having to learn their morals from their parents and then having to set those morals aside for some fucking test from some fucking professor that has a chip on their shoulder and absolutely hates any discourse or discussion. So I highly recommend secondary. And when it comes to colleges, I honestly recommend going to more of a trade college than a typical college, because a lot of businesses are looking at trade colleges as more valuable nowadays. Because the thing is that those trade colleges, they usually kind of teach you by doing. And so you are actively developing those skills. And you're actively developing the ability to make the choices that are needed in that field. So it's a good idea there. So that's a little bit of future advice. Also, figure out, what your passion is. Can you make a living off of it? If so, is there a trade school that teaches that sort of thing that'll help you grow your skills a little bit more there and get more of a specialization and get your foot in the door? That's actually a really good question to ask yourself right now as a freshman. Now's the time where you need to start planning out your future. Honestly, I think freshman is the absolute latest that you should start that planning process. A lot of people wait until their junior or senior year. That's way too late. Because these are some big choices that you're going to have to be making. So looking at it as a freshman is a great way to go, because then you can decide which classes are going to be of the utmost importance to you. So you can choose which voluntary classes you're taking in high school. Later on, you can go ahead and choose your voluntary classes based off of what your future plans are. Oh, so you're going into the medical field? I'm just going to let you know right now, the medical field, if you're looking to get away from Democrat stranglehold on society, the medical field is the worst place for you to go. Well, the thing is in the medical field, you're sometimes not allowed to help people in all the ways that they need help. In fact, that's a very common thing in the medical field nowadays. And I'm not saying that as someone who has no experience. I'm saying that, oh, so you're in the technological aspect of the medical field. Okay, that's a completely different story. Okay, all right. Well, if that's your passion and that's what you want to do, I say go for it. Remember, you have to go ahead, plan out your schooling, that sort of thing. Look at what schools you want to go to. Try to make sure that they don't have some massive liberal thing on campus. You might have to go outside of area to go ahead and do it, but I would highly recommend going that route, because going to a school that actually has good rapport is actually just as important as having the knowledge, if that's what you're wanting to do, at least for getting your foot in the door. Oh, no, not Berkeley. No, 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 no. Oh, Jesus Christ. If I had the choice between living homeless under a bridge and going to Berkeley, I'll be getting real comfortable with that bridge right quick and in a hurry. But that's just me personally. But that would be my choice because I'm basing it off of my morals. What am I willing to deal with and what am I not willing to deal with? That's the question. And you have to ask yourself that same question. But yeah, man, as far as that goes, if it really gets to a really bad point, you might think about going ahead and reporting if there's actual discrimination going on. Like if this person is going out of their way to make your life a living hell, and if they're actively marking down your grades for no reason, go ahead and report it. I'm not saying that anything's going to be done with it because a lot of school boards tend to be a little bit toothless at this point when it comes to that sort of thing, especially in Jersey. But, you know, at that point, you know, it might be a situation where the law might end up getting involved because there are laws against that. And if other students see you doing that, they might go forward and say something as well. So I would definitely go ahead and keep all that in mind. But at the same time, just remember, right now you're in a situation where, yes, you can make your own decisions. You can. But the thing is your choices will have consequences, both positive and negative. So you have to really weigh how how those are going to affect you later on in life. Don't just look at how they affect you now. Look at how they're going to affect you later on. I know that with someone that's in the age range that you're in, I can understand that. I can get it. You know, it feels like it's super important at this point. But right now is your time to go ahead and learn. If you know that you're having false information thrown at you, then at that point, if you're able to disprove that information, put it outside of your head. Keep it in mind for the test, but as soon as that test is done, get rid of it. And the thing is, the information may be right, but the context that it's being used might be wrong as well. So you have to be able to differentiate between information and context. So just be careful with that. I highly recommend planning out. Oh, Yeah, but a lot of people are sitting there and doing that nowadays. Rob says that he's also getting a bunch of BS for hunting and fishing. Yeah, a lot of people have issues with that. There's a lot of people that are like, well, animals have feelings too. It's all like, yeah, but they're also tasty. So fuck yourself. I'm hungry. Fool's got to eat. Um, but the thing is when you actually go ahead and you're planning out your future, make decisions that are going to align with what you want for your future. That's all I'm able to say there. All right, Rob, have yourself a good one. Thank you for coming to the stream. Always appreciate the support. Have yourself a good one. I wish you the best of luck, man. But when we go ahead and we make our choices, everyone, like I said, look at how it's going to affect you later on down the line. Don't make your choices based strictly off of what you're feeling, because your feelings will very consistently lie to you. Go off of the information. Try to look critically at your situation. That's what I'm able to say about making choices. Because if you're looking critically at the situation, you're going to make choices based more off of logic and reason than you are off of emotion. And sometimes emotion does come into decision making, and sometimes it is important. I will admit that. But it's actually very rare. It's much more rare than having to have logic behind your decision making. Because the emotion tells you how it's going to affect you right now. The logic tells you how it's going to affect you later on down the line. What chain of events is this going to trigger? And that is, when making choices, that's what I think is the most important thing to consider, is what chain of events are you now triggering by this choice? Hey, Squeefles, how's it going? You know, some people sit there and say, well, you could have just sat there and said, think about how your decisions are going to affect your future. I'm going more in depth into this because of the pure and simple fact that when you go ahead and give yourself more information about why you're doing something, then it gives you more knowledge about yourself. Why in the hell would you not want to know about yourself? And don't sit there and say, well, because the more I learn about myself, the more of a prick I realize I am. That's fine. Realize you're a fucking prick. If you want to change it, change it. Me, I'm a prick. But the thing is, I'm not going to change it. Because that's me. That's who I am. That's what my choices have led me to be. But at the same time, I'm a prick that has a point. I'm not being a prick just to be a prick. I'm being a prick because no one else wants to take up the mantle. Oh, that sucks, Squeefles. Uh, but yeah, the thing is every once in a while, you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to make a choice. That's going to be a difficult choice because you're going to have to choose between doing what you feel is right based off of the knowledge that you have and you know, hurting someone's feelings, or not hurting someone's feelings and let something go that shouldn't be let go. You will have those decisions throughout your life. Especially if you end up at some point being a parent. Like me, I have to make those decisions with my daughter. Sometimes I have to hurt my daughter's feelings to teach her a lesson. Like, I don't like to raise my voice to my daughter, but if she's doing something that's dangerous or something that will get her in trouble later on in life if she does it, I'm not going to just sit there and let it drop. I'm going to correct that now so that way she can have a better life later on. And that is a choice that I have to make as a parent. It's a hard choice. There are many hard choices that parents have to make. All right, talk to you later, Squeefles. But the thing is when you go ahead and you make your decisions, like I said, they will affect other people. More often than not, they will. But at the same time, you also, it's going to primarily affect you. So you have to make your decisions based off of that knowledge. If you're making decisions based off of how other people are going to feel or how other people are going to perceive it, then you're not making the decisions that are best for you. And that's actually one of those little hidden tenets of MGTOW. You are making choices that are in your best interest, not in the best interest of women, not in the best interest of others, but in your best interest. Can those choices actually positively affect others? Yes, yes, they can. Like me, as a MGTOW, I'm choosing to make MGTOW content on here. That is my choice. It's having a positive effect on me because I'm able to get my information, my knowledge out there. But it's also positively affecting other people because they're now getting access to my perspective. So they can go ahead and go, oh, well, I never thought of it that way before. Or I didn't even think that that could be a thing. And so it helps them make their decisions later on down the line too. So it can positively affect them. It also negatively affects other people as well. Because, you know, snowflakes are going to be triggered. There's going to be women that watch my content and get their feelings hurt. But who knows? Maybe they'll actually learn something about how guys are being treated, about how guys feel about the situation. And maybe then that will affect their decisions. You know, at least a couple of their choices that they're going to make later on down the line. And that's just one example of how one choice can affect many choices of many different people. Choices have power. So you have to use it responsibly. The best way to use it responsibly is to make choices based off of information that you know, observations that you've made, past decisions, what has and hasn't worked, and also looking at how it's going to affect your future, as well as how it's going to actually change anything. That's how you effectively use that power. That's how you responsibly use that power. And everyone has that power. We're all making choices every minute of every day. The people who are here watching this, the people who have been interacting with this live stream, they all made a choice to come here. Rob made the choice to ask me for my thoughts on a situation, and I chose to answer. That's a lot of choices all in one small package right there. One small packet of time. But the thing is those choices couldn't have been there if I had not made the initial choice to start this live stream. So me making that one choice opened up choices to everyone else. So choices have so much power that they can create the opportunity for other choices. Or they can create a necessity for other choices, depending on the situation. And voice, I actually kind of disagree with that. Women can make choices for themselves that are the best for their future. They can. I've seen it happen a lot. I actually know a few women that are actually independent. And they actually make choices that are good for their futures. You know, like they go into a career that they're actually good at, that they're actually going to be able to advance in. They have the drive and resolve to follow through with those choices. Then, of course, you also have women that will sit there and make the choice to give in to hypergamy, which hypergamy is good for themselves, not good for really anyone else involved in the situation, but it's good for themselves. Yeah, I understand that voice, but I'm just saying, even them making the choice to give in to hypergamy, which it is a choice, they can actively fight against that. Just like guys have to constantly make the choice of not pouncing on any random woman that we're walking across and fucking her right there in the middle of the street. That is a choice on our part. We're not giving in to those baser instincts. Women can make those same choices. We all have choices that will positively and negatively affect our lives, depending on what choice we make, what direction we choose to go in. We all have those all throughout our lives. But the thing is those are actually our choices. Some people will sit there and say, oh, well, I didn't have a choice. Bullshit. You did have a choice. Oh, and that's actually very true, voice. I'm not going to argue with you on that one. Women do tend to make the choices that are going to be more for the here and now. They tend to not plan so far into the future. Like if they're planning into the future, they plan into the near future. Not so much the far, far future, unless we're talking about like them getting married or something like that. But that's the same thing as planning for retirement for a guy. You know, everyone plans on that level at some point, some later than others. But I mean, there's some people that don't plan on it. They just fly by the seat of their pants throughout their entire life, and their life tends to be a little bit on the rough side. But hey, that's their choice. They suffer the consequences for it. And just like men, women suffer the consequences, both positive and negative, of their choices. But I do agree with you. A lot of women nowadays are making the choice of what feels good to them now. But that's because they're making the choice based off of what they feel. Not off of what they've actually observed, not off of actual information drawn from multiple sources, not off of empirical fact, but they make their decisions based off of emotion. Like I said, emotion tends to sit there and tell you what the results of your choices are going to be for the direct here and now, or maybe the near future. But logic and reason and knowledge are what give you kind of the forecast of what that choice is going to mean farther down the timeline. So at that point, if you tend to focus more on knowledge, logic, and reason, you're going to be planning more for the future, not so much for the here and now. Those are the people that sit there and say, well, I'm sacrificing some of my free time today, but I'm going to have a lot more money to be able to do what I want later on down the road. I'm going to choose not to go out drinking with my buddies tonight, but with the money that I'm going to save now, I can go ahead and use it on a small little mini vacation in a few months when I have time and I've saved up a little bit more money. If you're making it based off of emotion, you're going to go out drinking with your buddies because that's going to give you the instant gratification. But if you're making it based off of logic and reason, then you're going to get the bigger payout later on down the road when you can go on a little mini vacation and get away from it all. Or maybe even be able to take a couple days off of work and not end up in the shit pit for it. So again, it all comes down to, why are you making the choices that you are making? If you're basing it off of emotion, that's a choice for the here and now and the very near future. If you're making the choice based off of logic and reason, you're making the choice based off of what you are perceiving is going to happen in the farther future, months or even years or even decades down the line. Well, the thing is yeah, living in the here and now can be kind of fun, but it can be really shitty for your future. People who decide to take highly addictive drugs or start smoking cigarettes are making the decision based off of what they want then and there. But as we've seen, it has very negative effects the farther down the line you go. And those actually tend to become habits. So they make that same decision over and over and over and over again, and they become dependent on that situation. And they artificially rob themselves of agency in that way. So instead of starting up that continuous cycle of negative choices that are being made back to back, go ahead and get yourself into a cycle of positive choices. Instead of deciding to go ahead and try out this drug, choose to go out and go for a run. Or go down to the gym. Or start learning a new skill. Something that's important to you. Something that will be beneficial to you. Maybe something that you can make a career out of. And if you continuously make that same choice, you make that a habit, then yeah, you get a smaller payoff right now. Or you even end up in a little bit of a feeling deficit, quote unquote. But later on down the line, you get the payoff. The saying, good things come to those who wait, is only half right. Good things come to those who make the right decisions now. Because if you make the decision to just sit there with your thumb up your ass, doing jack shit, fuck all, nothing good's gonna come of it. All you're gonna get is a shitty thumb and a loose butthole that leaks later on down the line. Oh, Voice. He says, a man impregnates a woman. She now has a choice to keep or abort. The man's choice doesn't exist. Should the man be able to opt out? I've already said this before, and I will say it again, and I do advocate for this. Yes, men should be able to opt out. The woman should not be able to make a choice that will affect years of that man's life with him having no say in it. And some people are like, well, he made the choice to have sex with her. It's all like, and she made the choice to have sex with him. They both made that fucking choice. So why does it come down to her deciding whether or not that child gets to exist or not? And why should it come down to her as to whether or not the man gets trapped into it. Like I've said before on my channel, I believe in true equality. That means I believe in equality of opportunity, which means equality of choice. And I agree with you, Red Dragon. Reproduction rights should have never been fully given to women, because the thing is, it does affect men. If something is going to affect you, you should have a choice in the matter. And to be fair, if you're making the choice to go out there and have unprotected sex, well, like I said, you got to suffer consequences, both positive and negative, because you're making those choices based off of the information that you have now. Sitting there and saying, oh, well, this should be this way, doesn't mean shit. The way things are right now is how you have to choose to make your decisions. And the truth of the matter is right now, once that egg is fertilized, you no longer have a choice in the matter. Not without jumping through a whole hell of a lot of hoops. Which is time consuming, it's money wasting, and it is a problem. And a lot of people are making the choice right now to bring this up. Hopefully we will see some change at some point. But as of right now, we haven't seen the changes, so you have to make your choices based off of reality now. Not what it could be in the future, not what it should be now, not what it would be if different decisions had been made in the past. You have to base your choices off of the reality of today. So, just going to go ahead. I'm going to be honest there. When it comes down to that, make good decisions. Make good choices. If you're going to be going out there, you're going to be being a horn dog, and you don't ever want to have kids, expend the resources to get snipped. Because then at least that's one risk that you're taking off the table. That is a very good choice for you to make if you are sure that you don't want to have kids later on down the road. Or if you already have kids and you're sure you don't want any more. Like me, I will not have sex with another woman until I'm able to get snipped. It's not going to happen. And that's if I ever have sex with a woman again. I'm actively making those choices right now. And so far, they've served me pretty well. But yeah, so let's see, what's for Dragon saying? They want equality first. They want equality. First start with making us equal by law, but of course they don't want that. Yeah, no, you're very true there. And they are making that choice. They're choosing to be hypocritical. They are choosing to be self-serving. They are choosing to push us away. That is their choice. And right now, I'm going to say we, as in MGTOW, are choosing to walk away. That is the choice that we can make. We can choose to stay for the abuse, stay as a mangina and all that sort of thing, and cuck ourselves out, or we can choose to walk away. And a lot of men are choosing to walk away now. Voice is asking me, is saying, the swamp is so thick these days. Is there hope? There's always hope. because there's always a possibility that a chain of good choices can be made and lead to a good effect. There's always hope. Is there probability? Not really. Like if I was to go ahead and pretend to be a statistician, I'd probably say we got less than a 1% chance of the situation actually fully being corrected, of people making that series of choices that's needed to be made all at the same time to be able to put into effect the changes that we need. Yeah, voice. You're very you're very accurate on that. Voice says Cuck Mangina is used to shame the MGTOW. Now they envy him. Yeah, and they do. Uh, and the thing is MGTOW even called that. Hell, I was calling that before I was even a MGTOW. When I was sitting there and first hearing about MGTOW, I was all like, yeah, right now people are shaming MGTOW, but that's because there's this secret boiling envy, and eventually that envy is going to come to the top. It's going to come to the forefront. And you're going to start seeing more and more people starting to side with the people that they're shaming. And sure as shit, look what's happening. More and more men are going MGTOW. And the thing is a lot of men that have gone MGTOW that I've talked to personally have at one point in the past actually shamed people with that MGTOW mentality. Were actively going out of their way to try to shame them. They were choosing to do that, and then they made bad choices based off of their emotions at the time. And then when that turned out piss poor for them, then all of a sudden they were like, oh, well, maybe we should go ahead and change our stance, and then started making good decisions, like going MGTOW. So it's one of those things where a lot of people now are starting to learn from their own mistakes. And now, thanks to the internet, people are going out there getting information from multiple sources and amalgamating the stuff themselves instead of trusting companies like Google and all that, because these companies have been shown to be censoring ideas, to be not allowing access to information. And people are saying, no, I want to make an educated decision based off of all points of view. And so now you've got shit like the Brave browser, DuckDuckGo, that sort of thing, which don't censor information, which actually give you the full-fledged results. They don't have a blacklist. And so people are starting to go to that so that they can make those educated decisions, so they can try to make better choices in their lives. So they can change the world around them in a positive way based off of reality and not based off of feelings. So getting what appears to be a positive change now that turns out to be a very negative change in the future. They're making a change now that might be hard now, but will pay off in the future for future generations. And that tends to rise to the top in humanity. We always go through these little phases, like what we're going through now. The last time we went through a phase like this, it was called the Dark Ages, where people were making piss poor choice after piss poor choice after piss poor choice based off of lack of information, lack of knowledge. And the ones who had the information and the knowledge were making piss poor decisions because they were making decisions based off of emotion, not off of logic and reality, which was negatively affecting all of the other people around them in a big way. Right now, I honestly think we're going back into the Dark Ages again. just with a slightly different light being cast on it. That's what it truly feels like to me. And that feeling is coming from looking at history, looking at the shit that went in the Dark Ages, and comparing it to now. And I'll admit, it's fucking terrifying. Because I don't want my daughter growing up in that. I don't want any of your kids growing up in that. I don't want any future generations having to deal with this shit again. We've already dealt with it once. Once was enough. But the thing is, if we were all making good choices, a lot of the problems that we have nowadays, society-wide, wouldn't be a thing. But let's go ahead and run through a chain of consequences of a single choice. A gang member decides to pull the trigger. Let's go ahead and start there. That is the beginning choice. That gang member decides to pull the trigger. Well, as a consequence of that, the bullet is fired, goes downrange, kills someone in a rival gang. Well, then that gang, enraged by that, makes a decision based off of emotion and decides to go out and start a gang war. So they then choose, collectively, to pull the triggers. Well, then one of those bullets goes flying downrange, misses the target, and ends up hitting some innocent little kid in a bedroom and kills them. What are the consequences of that initial decision? Now you have a grieving family. You have the cops up in arms. You have a gang war going on, causing more violence and death. You have cops whose lives are being put unnecessarily in danger by people who are making piss poor decisions. You got the liberal media glorifying the thugs that are out there causing all these fucking problems. They're making that fucking choice, which is then emboldening other thugs, as well as pissing off other citizens and making other citizens fearful, who are then making choices based off of those emotions. One decision, one bad choice can have an infinitely bad effect. A choice that only directly affects maybe a 7-foot distance between two people can ripple out into a tidal wave of bad choices by an entire community. That is the power of choice. When used properly, it can solve a great many deal of problems. But when used improperly, it can destroy countless lives. And indeed, it can destroy a society. Because the power of choices compounds with each jump. And each time you have a jump, countering it out with good choices becomes infinitely more difficult. So when you're making your choices, keep that in mind. Because a choice that might seem insignificant to you, to a person several jumps down the chain, could be the same as you pointing a shotgun at their head and pulling the trigger. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to end the stream here, guys. Thank you to everyone who's come and listened. Thank you for all the support. Still got that one rogue dislike. Still not 100% sure where that's coming from, but whatever. But I want to thank everyone for all the support. If you guys want to go ahead, continue the conversation. I'm sure it'll be continuing on over in the Discord. The more people we get in the Discord, the more conversations can be had. And I'm sorry for not having been on Discord, but was having some issues with internet lately. So I got those all worked out, and so we're good to go there. So I'll definitely be on Discord. But just wanted to go ahead, let y'all know that I definitely appreciate all the support. And I'll talk to y'all later. Have yourselves a good one. Peace out. Thanks, Voice.